Hey there and welcome back. It's that time of the month for the restoration blog. So let's take a look at all the projects that I'm working on and see some of the things that you don't get to see in a regular video. I think I need to start right here because the majority of my time this month was spent on two things. One is getting Barn Sprite number 3 sold, which also involved me getting banned from eBay. I did get my account reinstated and they did take off the invoice for the listing fee for this car, but I cannot provide you all the rest of the details because I do not have the written statement from my district attorney's office yet. But when I get that and have more information about what actually happened with eBay, then I can let you know. So Barn Sprite number 3 was sold on Bring a Trailer and it is going to a fan of the channel. This fan lives in New York. And so if you are a member of a car club around there, you might see Barn Sprite number 3 around. I had hoped that I would be much further along on the Elva project than I am right now, but I still need to get in here and finish the engine. I have a few leaks that I need to get addressed, and then we can put the Elva on the dyno and make sure everything is okay with it. I did get some things ordered for the next winter checkout video, so if you think you have a guess of which car is going to be up next, comment in the comments below. I do have some new Land Rover content planned, but I cannot start filming that yet because things are still in the works that need to be finalized before I can make that video. And this month I had the new Defender in for some warranty work. So this is the first problem that I've had with this vehicle. It wasn't much of a problem. It's just that one of the headrests on the back seat was not folding down any longer. Apparently that's a common problem on this model. So if you have one of these, you might want to check that your headrests do fold up and down. I keep my rear seat folded down because I use this as an overland vehicle, and I lifted this headrest up so that I could get to some stuff that is stored beneath it, and then I could not fold it back down on the last trip, and that meant that this was in the way and causing some issues for me. I do have the new cap and rotor for the FJ40, so I could throw those in and then put it back on the dyno, see how much better it might run. I don't think that putting a new carburetor on it is in the cards for right now. So I think I might just hold off on doing the next video on this until next year. But if you really want me to throw in that cap and rotor and put this back on the dyno, let me know in the comments below. And if there's enough interest, I won't wait until next year and I'll get this on the dyno now. Here's something that I have not shown yet. This is a rotary engine from a Mazda RX-7. I was given this for free, nothing wrong with it. Someone just bought the wrong engine. They didn't want it. It was either send it to the scrapyard or give it to me. Because of the culture we have in America where you can get sued for anything, the company was not able to sell it. And it was either that I take it or it would be destroyed. So of course I took it. I think I might be giving this to my buddy Steve from Build Season and he might do something neat with it. Over here on the lift is the best driving MGB that I have ever driven. This is a 1980 MGB limited edition, and this MGB now has a 5-speed transmission out of a Mazda Miata, and that came from Moss Motors. Also, it now has a Weber carburetor. These cars originally have a single Zenith Stromberg carburetor and loads of smog equipment. When you change over to a Weber, you need to change the intake manifold, obviously. But the original intake manifold is part of the exhaust manifold as well, so you do have to go to something like these headers or find an exhaust manifold off of an earlier car. You can see all of the smog equipment is now removed. There's some really nice plugs that Moss Motors sells to plug those injection holes in the head. The radiator was not doing so well in this car, so I also converted it to an aluminum radiator. I got some electric fans sourced locally, and they are activated by the stock temperature switch. If you are familiar with this era of MGB, there is way less clutter under the bonnet here, and this is much easier to maintain and work on. Inside the car, the shift lever comes out in the correct location. If you didn't spot that knob, you would not know that there is anything non-standard about this car. Since the engine had to come out to put the new transmission in, the engine has been completely resealed. You can see it is not leaking any oil now. We get a good view of the adapter plate and then the Mazda transmission. In order to mount this transmission in here, all you have to do is clamp this bracket here, which holds the rear of the transmission in place. There is no cutting or modification that needs to be done to the car. that would keep you from reversing this process. One interesting thing that I want to share is the exhaust. Left this as original as possible. It comes with this short adapter pipe, so that is just butt welded to the original exhaust as the header comes down to this point right here. So in order to match up with the existing header, I have an expansion joint right there, which is butt welded to the original exhaust, and I was able to keep all the rest of that original and the way it should be. Then right here on the other side of the door, we have the 355 Spider Barn Find. I don't know if this car fits my channel, so I don't know if I'm going to do any videos on this. This one has the F1 gearbox. I think the viewers of my channel prefer to watch old cars, so I haven't decided if I'm going to be doing any videos on this barn find yet. So if you would like to see what it takes to get this car going again, let me know in the comments below. I haven't been putting any work into the Sunbeam Tiger, but I have had some new parts arrive, so I have a new clutch sitting here ready to go on the engine. I still haven't started doing any work on the carburetor yet, but even though these Tigers use Ford V8s, they do use Lucas generators, just as the early 260 V8 Shelby Cobras did. The pulley and fan were messed up on this. I believe this is a 40 amp version of the Lucas generator, so I need to track down a pulley and fan somewhere. This is becoming a problem on MGs and Sprites as well. It's hard to get any of the original pulleys and fans anymore. And then a ton of time has been spent getting the off-road wrecker going. And I am going to the Matt's off-road games and wrecker games again this year. You can see the new flathead engine installed. I have a Weber carburetor now. I also have split exhaust manifolds. And when you change your exhaust manifolds on an engine like this, you need to heat the bottom of the intake manifold. The original heated from the exhaust manifold, so I will have to mount this plate up underneath the square part underneath the carb there that will use coolant to heat the intake air as it goes into the engine. Very important on here. So I will have to bring water out from here as well as the back of the head and pipe it into this. And as you can see, there's a bunch of other things still left to do under the engine bay. The rebuilt transmission and transfer case are in place. You can see the floor still needs to go in, and I'm going to be doing some wiring. On the floor, I decided to cover the underside in Dynamat. I'm hoping this addition will keep it a little quieter inside, but with my new dual exhaust, the whole thing might be louder anyways. I'm also throwing in some NOS drive shafts. Two of the shafts still need to go in. Over here you can see the original exhaust manifold. So on the top of this would take exhaust gases and it would heat up the bottom of the intake manifold, giving you proper operation when it's cold outside. Also, unfortunately, I had to lose my mechanical fuel pump, so I will be carrying a spare electrical one with me. There are a lot of new things going on with the wrecker, but that will all be explained in a new video coming soon. Moving on to the Bronco project. This, if you remember, started out as all individual pieces of metal, and it's now to the stage that all the little brackets and everything that are still on the old body, they don't send you a lot of those brackets and little bits, things like stuff for the washer, reservoir. None of that stuff comes, and you have to either migrate that or make your own and put it on these panels. I'm going to be using the original doors as well as the original windshield frame, but just like the rear fenders, the original front fenders were cut, so I will have to get new front fenders to put on here. This is really coming along now, as is the 63 Corvette. I think it's almost ready for a prime. If you are ever planning on trying to tackle one of these Corvettes, the worst part is these headlights. Getting the gap right around here is horrible, and these were probably horrible from the factory, and then every time that someone has messed with these cars or painted them, they probably messed them up even worse as well. And make sure that you put the bezels on this side. A lot of shaving may have to be done. The bezels are made of pop metal, just like the headlight surrounds on a classic Mustang, and there's not a whole lot that you can do to change those. So getting everything to line up correctly is very difficult on these cars, and you're going to spend a lot of time on these headlights. But beyond that, I think the Corvette is coming along really nicely, and next time you see it, it should definitely have some primer on it. This month I also have a big Century boat in here. I got to buy some new tools, learn some new things working on this boat. I'm not going to talk about this in depth at all, but I did learn some new things that maybe I can apply to other vehicles later. Hanging up right here gives you an idea of some of the other little things that you need to migrate over to your Bronco. Some of these had to be made based on what was on the other body, and some of them were actually split. You can see this one's a little bit rusty, so you can tell this one came off of the other body. But all of these little pieces need to be welded onto that new body to make it right. And if you're wondering why do the new bodies not come with these things, it's because usually the people that are spending the money for those new bodies are building resto mods, and they're not building it correctly. They're putting modern engines in it. They are not using the same equipment that the original ones did, and so that's why they delete all these things, because they don't know if you're going to want them or not. And then over here, the body work for the Austin-Healey 106 is pretty much ready, but the big thing to see is we have some paint. Might be a little hard to see on the camera, but there's some silver right here. The floors have been undercoated as well as inside of the trunk floor. The wheel wells have been undercoated, and that same treatment will happen on the front fenders on the inside of them when they are ready. And of course, you need to paint all of the areas that are going to be covered up by that large front cowl. The front of the car is one piece, and it goes all the way from here, covering all of this all the way to the front. So you need to paint all of this ahead of time of putting that on there. This car is now ready to have the engine put in, and then the rest of the body work can be done. That can be put on for the final time once it's painted on the inside, and then it doesn't have to be removed once the entire outside of the car has been painted. I think that's going to be it for today. So if you want to see more videos like this, comment below and click subscribe.